Imagine standing at the doorway of your life, not because you are afraid to step forward, but because you believe that some moments are worth waiting for. The world may call it loneliness, others may call it foolish hope, but deep inside, you know there is a difference between waiting for anyone and waiting for the right one. Every passing day teaches another lesson. Every disappointment removes another illusion. And every quiet night shapes you into someone who will one day recognize love, not by its excitement, but by its peace. If you are listening to these words today, perhaps you have wondered whether the person meant for you is already walking toward your life. Perhaps you have asked in silence, "Future wife, I'm waiting at the door. Are you finally coming?" Maybe the real journey has never been about finding someone else. Maybe it has always been about becoming the kind of person who is ready when destiny gently knocks. Because the deepest love doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with perfect timing, changing everything without asking for permission. There is a strange silence that exists between hope and reality. It is the silence of someone who has prepared a place in their life for another person, yet still wakes up each morning alone. Many people fear this silence. They rush to fill it with distractions, temporary relationships, endless conversations, or the constant noise of the world. But silence has something to teach that noise never can. It teaches patience. It teaches honesty. It teaches you who you become when no one is watching. Perhaps you have imagined this moment more times than you can count. You picture yourself opening a door and seeing the person who somehow feels familiar before a single word is spoken. Not because life is a fairy tale, but because something inside you has always believed that genuine love carries a quiet sense of recognition. It does not need to prove itself with grand performances. It simply arrives, and suddenly the pieces that never seem to fit begin finding their place. When I say future wife, I'm waiting at the door. Are you finally coming? I am not speaking only about a physical doorway. Every person has invisible doors throughout life. There is the door of forgiveness that many refuse to open, because old wounds still whisper. There is the door of trust, locked after disappointment, convinced the heart that safety could only be found behind walls. There is the door of growth that remains unopened, because becoming someone new often requires saying goodbye to an older version of yourself. Maybe the real door has always been within you. You cannot welcome lasting love into a house built on fear. Fear questions every smile. Fear expects every promise to be broken. Fear turns kindness into suspicion and silence into rejection. Love cannot breathe where fear controls every room. Before another soul can truly feel at home beside you, your own heart must become a place where peace can exist. Waiting is often misunderstood. People assume waiting means life has stopped moving. But rivers never stop flowing, simply because they have not reached the ocean. Trees continue growing through every season, even when no one notices the roots stretching deeper beneath the ground. The strongest foundations are always invisible while they are being built. Perhaps your life is like that today. You look around and wonder why nothing seems to be happening. Others celebrate engagements. Friends post wedding photographs. Families ask questions you have grown tired of answering. Sometimes comparison quietly enters your thoughts and convinces you that everyone else has found what you keep searching for. But comparison never tells the whole story. It only shows the highlight while hiding the struggle. Every smile carries unseen battles. Every relationship faces moments no photograph could ever reveal. So instead of asking why someone else arrived first, ask yourself what life is preparing within you. Real love asks for more than attraction. It asks for patience when misunderstandings appear. It asks for forgiveness after mistakes. It asks for courage during uncertainty. These qualities cannot simply appear the day you meet the right person. They are shaped long before that meeting ever happens. Every disappointment has been teaching something. Every goodbye has been creating space. Every lonely evening has been strengthening a part of your character that comfort could never build. Think about a craftsman shaping wood. Every cut appears destructive until the finished masterpiece is revealed. The wood never understands why pieces must be removed. Yet without those careful cuts, beauty would remain trapped inside rough edges. Life often works the same way. It removes people, expectations, and plans not because it enjoys taking things away, but because some things cannot fit into the future that quietly waits ahead. There may be nights when you wonder if the person you dream about even exists. You question whether your hope is simply another story your heart tells us to avoid giving up. Those thoughts are natural. Doubt visits every human being. The difference is that doubt does not always deserve a permanent place to live. Hope is not pretending everything will be easy. Hope is choosing to believe that becoming a better person is never wasted, whether someone arrives tomorrow or years from now. Imagine that your future wife is also walking through difficult seasons. Maybe she is learning lessons she never expected to face. Maybe she is discovering strength after heartbreak. Maybe she is healing from disappointments she rarely speaks about. Perhaps she is becoming exactly the person you will one day admire, just as you are slowly becoming the person she will someday need. Neither of you can rush that process. Some meetings happen too early and become painful memories instead of lasting relationships. Timing is often the invisible language of wisdom. We rarely appreciate it while waiting, because waiting feels empty. Yet looking back, we often realize that arriving earlier would have meant carrying burdens we were not yet strong enough to hold. The door you keep watching may not open because someone is delayed. It may remain closed because you are still placing the final pieces inside the home your heart is becoming. A peaceful relationship begins long before two people meet. It begins with the quiet decisions made in ordinary days, choosing honesty when lying seems easier, choosing kindness when bitterness feels justified, choosing growth instead of comfort. These small choices seem insignificant until one day they become the very qualities another person falls in love with. The world often celebrates finding love. It speaks far less about becoming someone capable of protecting love after it arrives. That journey happens in silence. It happens during mornings when no one applauds your progress. It happens during evenings when you choose hope over despair. It happens every time you refuse to let disappointment transform your heart into something colder than it was yesterday. One day there may indeed be a knock at the door, not only from another person, but from a new chapter of your life. When that moment comes, you will not simply be meeting someone new. You will be introducing them to the person you chose to become throughout every season of waiting. There is a comforting thought that many people forget whenever loneliness becomes too loud. While you are wondering where your future wife is, she may be asking the same question about you. Somewhere, another person may be carrying hopes they have never spoken aloud. She may not know your name, your face, or your story, but life could already be shaping her heart in ways that will one day make your paths cross. People often imagine love as a destination. They believe that once they meet the right person, everything difficult will disappear. But lasting love is rarely built by two perfect people finding each other. More often, it begins with two imperfect people who have quietly spent years learning lessons they never wanted to learn. Growth has a strange way of hiding itself. You rarely notice it while it is happening. You only recognize it when you look back and realize that the things which once controlled your emotions no longer have the same power. The disappointments that once broke your confidence have become stories instead of open wounds. The fears that once kept you awake now remind you how much stronger you have become. Perhaps the same quiet transformation is happening in her life. Maybe she is learning patience after spending years trying to force life to move faster than it should. Maybe she is discovering that peace is more valuable than excitement. Maybe she is realizing that real commitment is built through trust, honesty, respect, and everyday choices rather than dramatic promises. You cannot see her journey, just as she cannot see yours. Yet invisible journeys are often the most important ones. Think about a seed beneath the ground. From the surface, nothing appears to be happening. The earth looks still, days pass, rain falls, the sun rises and sets. Anyone looking from above could easily assume nothing has changed. But beneath the soil, life is quietly preparing itself. Roots spread into darkness before branches ever reach the light. Human lives often follow the same pattern. The seasons when you feel forgotten may actually be the seasons when your deepest foundations are growing. Your character is taking shape. Your values are becoming stronger. Your ability to remain kind after disappointment is becoming part of who you are. None of this receives applause, yet these are the qualities that matter most when love finally arrives. Many relationships fail because people meet before they understand themselves. They expect another person to complete the work they have avoided doing alone. They search for someone to remove loneliness instead of becoming comfortable with their own company. They hope another heart will heal wounds they have never been willing to face. Real love cannot replace inner healing. It can support it. It can encourage it. It can walk beside it. But it cannot become responsible for it. Imagine meeting your future wife before either of you had learned these lessons. Small misunderstandings might become permanent separations. Simple disagreements could become reasons to walk away. Pride might speak louder than compassion. Fear might silence honesty. Timing matters because people grow into the relationships they are eventually able to protect. There is beauty in becoming ready without knowing exactly when your moment will arrive. Every act of kindness shapes you. Every difficult decision strengthens you. Every promise you keep, even when no one notices, becomes part of your character. Character is invisible until life gives it a reason to appear. Perhaps she is doing the same things today. She may be choosing integrity when shortcuts seem easier. She may be learning forgiveness after betrayal. She may be discovering that love begins with respect long before romance enters the picture. Neither of you knows how close your lives may already be. Perhaps you have walked the same streets without realizing it. Perhaps your stories have crossed through people you both know. Perhaps the distance between you is measured not by miles, but by moments that still need to unfold. Life has an unusual way of connecting people after preparing them separately. The waiting is not always about distance. Sometimes it is about timing. Sometimes it is about wisdom. Sometimes it is about becoming the version of yourself who will recognize genuine love instead of chasing temporary comfort. When that day finally comes, you may realize that every delay carried a purpose you could never have understood while living through it. The lonely evenings, the unanswered questions, the quiet hopes, and the moments when you almost gave up were never empty. They were quietly shaping two separate lives, so that when they finally met, they would not simply fall in love. They would have the strength to remain there. People often believe that love begins the moment two eyes meet. It makes for a beautiful story, but life is usually quieter than that. The strongest relationships do not begin with fireworks. They begin with two hearts that have already learned how to carry their own weight. Before two people can build a future together, each must first become someone who knows how to stand alone without becoming bitter. There is a quiet strength in healing. It is not loud enough to attract attention. No one applauds the nights you choose forgiveness instead of resentment. No one notices the mornings when you decide to rise after disappointment instead of surrendering to it. Healing is rarely dramatic. Most of the time, it looks like ordinary choices repeated over and over again until your heart slowly becomes lighter than it used to be. Many people are searching for the right person while carrying the wrong version of themselves. They want loyalty, yet they have never learned to trust. They want honesty, yet they hide behind fear whenever difficult conversations appear. They ask for peace, but chaos has become so familiar that they mistake it for passion. Real love asks for something deeper. It asks you to become emotionally honest, to recognize your own fears before blaming another person, to understand your own wounds before expecting someone else to fix them, to accept that love is not a rescue mission. It is a partnership between two people who are willing to keep growing together. Imagine trying to build a home on cracked ground. No matter how beautiful the walls may be, every storm will expose the weakness underneath. Relationships are no different. Attraction may bring two people together, but character decides whether they remain together when life becomes difficult. This is why your seasons of solitude matter. They are not empty spaces between important moments. They are important moments. Every challenge teaches patience. Every disappointment teaches resilience. Every mistake, if accepted with humility, teaches wisdom. These lessons quietly become the foundation upon which lasting love is built. Some people fear being alone because they mistake solitude for failure. Yet solitude has introduced countless people to the truest version of themselves. Without constant distractions, you begin hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You recognize habits that no longer serve you. You discover dreams that were hidden beneath other people's expectations. You begin becoming someone you genuinely respect. That changes everything. Because when you respect yourself, you stop chasing relationships that require you to abandon your values. You stop begging for attention from people who cannot appreciate your presence. You stop confusing temporary excitement with genuine connection. Your future wife deserves to meet someone who has learned these lessons. And you deserve to meet someone who has been learning them too. Perhaps she has cried over promises that were never kept. Perhaps she has questioned whether love still exists after disappointment. Perhaps she has spent quiet evenings rebuilding confidence that someone else once tried to take away. Those experiences do not make her broken, they make her human. Just as your own struggles have shaped you, healing does not erase the past. It changes your relationship with it. The memories remain, but they no longer control your decisions. The scars remain, but they stop defining your identity. You no longer introduce yourself through your pain. You begin introducing yourself through your strength, your compassion, and your willingness to keep believing, despite everything that has happened. That is the kind of heart capable of protecting love, not because it has never suffered, but because it refused to let suffering become its personality. There will come a day when your paths finally cross. You may not recognize the importance of that moment immediately. It could begin with an ordinary conversation, a simple smile, or an unexpected meeting that seems almost insignificant. Life rarely announces its greatest blessings with loud music or dramatic signs. Instead, it quietly places two prepared hearts in the same chapter. Neither of you will be perfect, there will still be differences. There will still be moments that require patience, understanding, and forgiveness. But there is a remarkable difference between two people trying to complete each other and two people choosing to walk beside each other as whole individuals. One relationship depends on fear of losing. The other grows through trust. One is built on unrealistic expectations. The other is built on daily choices. One asks, "Will you save me?" The other says, "Let's continue becoming better together." That is where enduring love begins. Not in perfection, not in fantasy, but in the quiet meeting of two hearts that have learned how to heal without closing themselves to hope, how to remain gentle without becoming weak, how to believe in tomorrow, even after yesterday gave them every reason not to.